I bought a house in secret, thinking it would be the biggest surprise for my family. But what I discovered later left me speechless. My own daughter-in-law wasn't happy about the gift. She was secretly planning to take the house for her own family. This is not just a story about a house. It's about betrayal, hidden intentions, and a shocking family drama you won't forget. Stay with me until the end, because what happens next will change the way you look at trust, family, and greed forever. For as long as I can remember, I carried one dream quietly in my heart. The dream of I had always dreamed of owning a place where my family could feel safe, comfortable, and truly at home. For years, we had lived in a rented apartment. It wasn't terrible, but it never felt like it was ours. Every time I looked around, I thought about how wonderful it would be to surprise my son and his family with a house they could finally call their own. A secret plan began forming in my mind, a plan that I kept close to my heart. I didn't tell anyone, not even my son. I wanted it to be the biggest, happiest surprise of their lives. I started researching neighborhoods, scrolling through listings late at night, and quietly saving money. Every little detail mattered. The number of bedrooms, the size of the kitchen, whether there was a backyard for the children. I wanted it to be perfect. Not just a house, but a home filled with warmth and memories. After months of searching, I finally found it. The house wasn't flashy, but it had character. A cozy living room with a big window that let in the morning sun. A dining area where I imagined us sharing meals and enough space for the kids to grow. The moment I walked through the front door, I knew this was the one. Signing the papers in secret gave me butterflies in my stomach. I felt like a child hiding a wonderful secret gift. The idea of seeing the look on my son's face when I revealed the house made every sacrifice worth it. I pictured the joy, the gratitude, the tears of happiness. This was going to be the beginning of a new chapter for us, a place where my family could finally feel settled and secure. In those moments, I thought only of love. I never imagined that something so pure, so full of good intentions, could later unravel into betrayal and heartache. But back then, in that hopeful beginning, all I felt was excitement. I would walk through the empty rooms and imagine my grandchildren running across the floor, laughter bouncing off the walls. I dreamed of birthdays celebrated in the dining room, of Christmas trees by the window, of Sunday dinners where everyone gathered together. I even planned the reveal carefully. I thought about leading my family down the street, stopping in front of the house and saying, "This is ours." I imagined the hugs, the smiles, the overwhelming gratitude. In my mind, it was a perfect picture. What I didn't realize was that behind all this joy, someone else was already watching, calculating, and waiting for the right moment to twist my dream into something darker. The day finally came when I couldn't hold the secret in any longer. My heart was racing with excitement, almost like a child about to unwrap a gift, except this time, I was the one giving the gift. I called my son and his wife, asking them to meet me for something important. They sounded curious, but they had no idea what was waiting for them. I led them down the quiet street where the house stood. With every step closer, my chest grew tighter, filled with anticipation. My son walked beside me, his face calm but puzzled. My daughter-in-law followed, her eyes darting around as though trying to guess the surprise. When we finally stopped in front of the house, I took a deep breath. "This," I said with a trembling smile, "is our new home." For a moment there was silence. My son's eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. "Mom, are you serious?" he asked, his voice cracking. When I nodded, he rushed to hug me, tears already welling up. His gratitude was so pure, so overwhelming, it filled my heart with joy. This was exactly the reaction I had imagined. But when I turned to look at my daughter-in-law, her reaction was different. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was the kind of polite smile you give when you're expected to, not because you feel genuine happiness. She clapped her hands softly and said, "Wow, this is amazing." But the way her eyes scanned the house, lingering on the front door, the windows, almost like she was evaluating it, gave me an uneasy feeling I couldn't quite explain. Still, I brushed it aside. Maybe she was just overwhelmed. Maybe she didn't know how to express her emotions. After all, this was a huge surprise, a life-changing moment. We walked through the rooms together. My son touched the walls as if grounding himself in reality. He kept saying, "I can't believe you did this for us." Meanwhile, my daughter-in-law's questions grew sharper. Whose name is on the deed? Did you pay the house in full, or is there a mortgage? So, technically, this house belongs to you, right? At first, I laughed it off, answering casually, "Of course it's mine for now, but it's for the family. It's for all of us." But inside, a small seed of doubt planted itself. Why was she so focused on the paperwork instead of the joy of the moment? Why did her tone sound less like gratitude and more like calculation? That night, as I lay in bed replaying the reveal in my head, I felt two conflicting emotions. On one side, pride and happiness at seeing my son so touched. On the other, an uneasy chill when I remembered the way my daughter-in-law's eyes lingered on the keys in my hand. It was supposed to be a day of pure joy, the start of a beautiful new chapter. But little did I know, it was also the beginning of a slow unraveling, a shift in the air that would soon reveal the darker side of family, trust, and ambition. At first, I tried to ignore the uneasy feeling that had crept into my chest during the big reveal. I told myself I was just being paranoid. After all, this was supposed to be a gift of love, not the beginning of doubt. But as the days passed, I started noticing little things, tiny cracks in the picture-perfect moment that I could no longer brush aside. My daughter-in-law suddenly began showing a lot more interest in the house than I expected. She visited frequently, even when my son wasn't around. At first, I thought she was just excited, maybe even planning how to decorate. But her questions weren't about paint colors or furniture. Instead, she would sit at the kitchen table with a notebook and ask, almost casually, "Do you think it would be better if we transferred the title sooner rather than later? What if something happens to you? Who gets the house then? Wouldn't it make more sense if my husband's name was on the deed?" Each time, I would laugh nervously, trying to deflect. "Don't worry about those things. The house is safe. It's ours." But her eyes, sharp, calculating, told me she wasn't just curious. She was probing, digging for an opening. The strangest part was how she began involving her own parents in casual conversations. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone, saying, "Yes, it's a nice place. Enough rooms for everyone. You'll see when you visit." I froze. Why was she talking about them staying here, as if the house belonged to them too? Then came the subtle changes in her behavior. She started acting as though she had authority in the house. She walked through the rooms like an inspector, opening cupboards, checking windows, commenting on what needed to be fixed. She even suggested knocking down a wall to create a better open space, and mentioned how her father knows people in construction who could handle it. The red flags kept piling up. My son, blinded by love, didn't notice. Every time I tried to bring it up, he brushed it off. "Mom, she's just excited. She wants to make this place a home." But deep down, I felt it. This wasn't excitement. It was possession. One evening, I caught her alone in the living room, staring at the framed deed I had left on the shelf. Her fingers grazed over the document as if testing its weight. When she noticed me, she quickly smiled and said, "Oh, I was just admiring how official it looks." But her voice cracked slightly, betraying her. From that moment on, I couldn't shake the tension. I started locking the drawer where I kept important papers. I stopped leaving the house keys lying around. Something told me I had to protect what was mine before it slipped through my fingers. The more I observed, the more I realized her interest wasn't about building a family home, it was about control. She began pushing subtle suggestions to my son. Wouldn't it be more secure if the house was in our name? Or it would be easier for us to make decisions if we were the legal owners. Every word, every question, every lingering glance chipped away at my peace of mind. My dream of a home filled with joy was slowly being overshadowed by suspicion. And then came the moment that confirmed everything I feared. A whispered conversation, words not meant for my ears, that revealed the truth of her intentions. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, the kind of day when you least expect your world to turn upside down. I had come back to the house earlier than planned, carrying a bag of groceries. The front door was slightly ajar, which immediately made me pause. I knew I had locked it that morning. My heart began to beat faster as I pushed the door open, stepping inside as quietly as possible. From the hallway, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. At first, I thought my son was there with his wife. But as I drew closer, I realized it was just her, speaking on the phone in a hushed but urgent tone. "Don't worry," she whispered. "She won't hold on to it forever. The house will eventually be ours. I just need to convince him to put our names on the deed. Once that's done, it'll be easy to bring you here." I froze. My chest tightened as the words sank in. She wasn't just curious about the paperwork. She had a plan. A deliberate, calculated plan to take the house away from me and hand it over to her own family. I felt my knees weaken, but I forced myself to stay silent, hidden. I didn't want her to know I was there. I wanted to hear more, to make sure I wasn't imagining things. She continued, her voice dripping with impatience. "I already asked about the mortgage and the title. She keeps saying it's hers for now, but I'll make sure it changes. Trust me, this house will belong to us, not her." Those words struck me like a knife. Not hers. Us. I gripped the edge of the wall, my mind spinning. All this time, I had believed I was giving my family a gift, a foundation for their future. But in her eyes, I was just an obstacle. Someone to be manipulated until I handed over everything I had worked so hard for. When she finally hung up, I slipped back quietly, pretending I had just arrived. She greeted me with her usual polite smile. But now, I could see the truth behind it. Every gesture, every word felt like a mask, hiding her real intentions. That night, I lay awake, the sound of her voice echoing in my head. The house will eventually be ours. It was no longer just suspicion, it was reality. She wasn't content with the life I had provided. She wanted more, and she was willing to take it, no matter the cost. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but something inside me told me to wait, to gather proof, to be strategic. Because if she could plan in secret, then so could I. For the first time since buying the house, I no longer felt safe within its walls. What was meant to be a symbol of love had become the center of betrayal. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of a battle I never thought I'd have to fight. Against my own family. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. The words I had overheard replayed in my mind day after day like a broken record. The house will eventually be ours. Each time I saw my daughter-in-law smile at me, I felt the sting of betrayal sharper than before. I knew it was only a matter of time before her plan went further, and I couldn't stand by and watch everything I had built be stolen from under me. One evening, after dinner, I asked them both to sit down in the living room. My son looked confused, sensing the seriousness in my tone. My daughter-in-law, however, crossed her legs calmly, flashing that polite smile that I now recognized as nothing more than a mask. "I need to ask you something," I began, my voice steady but my heart pounding in my chest. "Why have you been so interested in the paperwork for this house?" Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second before she quickly recovered. "Oh, I just want to make sure everything is secure for the family. That's all." I leaned forward, locking my eyes on hers. "Secure for the family? Or secure for your family?" The room fell silent. My son looked between us, his brow furrowed. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I turned to him, my voice breaking slightly. "I heard her, son. I heard her talking on the phone. She said the house would eventually belong to her and her parents. Not you. Not us. Them." His eyes widened, but before he could respond, she jumped in, her tone sharp and defensive. "That's ridiculous. You must have misheard. Why would I ever say something like that?" I slammed my hand on the coffee table, my patience snapping. "Don't lie to me. I was there. I heard every word. You've been planning this from the beginning, asking about the deed, the mortgage, the title. You never cared about making this a home. You only cared about taking what isn't yours." Her mask slipped. For the first time, I saw the coldness in her eyes as she leaned back and said, almost smugly, "Well, maybe it would make sense for the house to be in our name. After all, we're the younger generation. We're the ones building a future. Shouldn't we have control over it?" My son sat in stunned silence, torn between us. His face was pale, his hands gripping his knees tightly. "Is this true?" he whispered to her. She didn't deny it. Instead, she doubled down. "I just want what's best for us. Don't you think it's unfair that your mother holds all the power? If something happens to her, we'd have nothing. My parents could help us manage the house better. It's practical." I felt a wave of anger and heartbreak crash over me. This house was meant to be a gift, a place of love, of security. And yet, all you see is property, ownership, control. Do you even hear yourself? You're willing to tear this family apart for greed. My son buried his face in his hands. "Stop. Please, just stop," he muttered. But there was no stopping now. The truth was out, and the damage was done. I stood, my voice trembling but firm. "Let me make this clear. This house is in my name, and it will stay that way. I will not be manipulated. I will not let greed destroy what I've built. If you can't respect that, then maybe you don't belong under this roof." Her face hardened, the polite mask completely gone now. "You'll regret this," she hissed under her breath. The air in the room turned icy. My son looked at her in disbelief, then at me, caught between loyalty and love. I could see the storm brewing inside him, but deep down, I knew one thing. The confrontation was only the beginning of a much bigger battle. That night, after the confrontation, I barely slept. The weight of betrayal pressed on my chest, but beneath the pain, a fire of determination began to burn. I had sacrificed too much, worked too hard, to let anyone, especially someone within my own family, take away what was rightfully mine. The next morning, I went to the drawer where I kept the most important papers. I pulled out the deed, the official title of ownership, and spread them across the table. The black ink of my name glared back at me like a shield, reminding me that this house was not just a structure of bricks and wood. It was the result of years of labor, saving, and sacrifice. I decided it was time to make things crystal clear. That evening, I called my son and daughter-in-law into the living room again. This time, I wasn't trembling. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. As they sat down, I laid the documents on the table in front of them. "Do you see this?" I said firmly, pointing to my name printed on the deed. "This house belongs to me. Every wall, every floorboard, every inch of land, it's under my name and protected by the law." My son looked down at the papers, silent, ashamed. My daughter-in-law, however, narrowed her eyes. "So what? Papers can change. You can always transfer ownership." I leaned closer, my voice calm but unyielding. "Not to you, not to your parents. Not now, not ever. This house was a gift for my family, but it will remain protected under my name until the day I choose otherwise. No amount of scheming or manipulation will change that." Her lips tightened, but I didn't let her speak. I continued, my tone sharper now. "I've already consulted a lawyer. These documents are secured. Even if something happens to me, the house won't simply fall into your hands. I've taken measures to ensure it stays safe." The color drained from her face. For the first time, her confidence cracked. She glanced at my son, expecting him to defend her, but he looked away, unable to meet her eyes. I softened my voice as I turned to him. "Son, this was never about control. I bought this house out of love. For you, for your future, for your children. But love cannot survive when poisoned by greed. You have to understand that." He nodded slowly, guilt etched across his face. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have seen it. I didn't realize." His words trailed off, heavy with regret. My daughter-in-law finally snapped, her voice rising. "You're acting like I'm the villain here. I only wanted security for us. Is that so wrong?" I met her glare with steady eyes. "Security is built on trust, respect, and honesty. Not lies, not betrayal. If you truly wanted what was best for this family, you would have cherished this gift, not plotted to take it away." The room fell silent again. For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Then I gathered the papers, slid them back into the folder, and stood tall. "This matter is settled," I said firmly. "The house is mine, and it will stay that way. If you can accept that, then we can still move forward as a family. If not, then you'll have to decide what's more important to you. Greed or family." Her face twisted with anger, but she said nothing more. My son buried his head in his hands once again, caught between the two of us. I walked to the front door, locking it behind me as if sealing my decision. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of control return. I knew the battle wasn't completely over, but I had drawn a line that could not be crossed. This house was more than just a gift. It was my legacy, and I was prepared to protect it at any cost. When I first set out to buy this house in secret, my heart was filled with nothing but love. I imagined joy, surprise, and gratitude. I never imagined betrayal. I never imagined that the person who should have welcomed the gift with open arms would instead see it as an opportunity to take advantage of me. Looking back now, I realized something important. Family is not only about blood, but also about trust. Without trust, even the closest bonds can crack. This house was meant to unite us, but instead, it revealed the hidden greed that had been lurking beneath the surface. It hurts. It hurts more than I can put into words. To know that someone I embraced as a daughter-in-law Someone I wanted to share my blessings with was secretly plotting to take everything away. It leaves scars that don't fade easily. But here's what I've learned. Love must always walk hand in hand with wisdom. It is good to give, but it is equally important to protect what you've worked for. Blind generosity can sometimes open doors for manipulation. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. I still love my son. Nothing can change that. He is caught in a storm between loyalty to his wife and love for his mother. I pray he finds clarity. As for my daughter-in-law, I can only hope that one day she understands that greed never leads to true happiness. A house without trust, without honesty, without respect. It's nothing more than walls and a roof. When I walk through these rooms now, I no longer see only the laughter and warmth I once imagined. I see lessons carved into every corner. Lessons of caution, lessons of strength, lessons of resilience. This house has become more than just a gift. It has become a reminder that love must be protected, just like property. And to you who are listening, I want to ask, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you forgive? Would you fight? Would you protect, even if it meant facing those closest to you? Because this isn't just my story. This is a lesson for all of us. In families, in friendships, in every relationship, trust is the foundation. Once it's broken, rebuilding it takes more than bricks and mortar. So, if you take anything away from my story, let it be this. Give with love, but guard with wisdom. Cherish your family, but never let greed destroy the home you've built. This was my journey, filled with hope, betrayal, confrontation, and resolution. And now, I leave it to you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your perspective. Because at the end of the day, stories like this don't just belong to one person. They belong to all of us who have lived through the fragile balance of love, trust, and family.